Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today's video I'm going to cover Cursor in depth. It's probably one of the best tools created in development and has helped everyone tremendously. If you're someone who is just getting started with Cursor or has no idea what this is and you want to become a better developer or build features without knowing how to build a lot of features, this is the exact place. We're going to use Cursor to do three specific things. Number one, we're going to create something completely from scratch and see how that gets built. I'm going to show you the whole process. Number two, we're going to use Cursor to actually edit something that's already built, maybe an application, maybe a project, and see how we can work on that. And number three, we're going to use Cursor to build and debug complex features. If you watch the video till the end, you will have a complete idea on how to use this to be a 10x engineer. And even if you're not an engineer, be just a 10x developer without knowing how to code. So let's get started. Perfect. Now, if you see, this is how Cursor screen opens up. I am on a pro subscription, but Cursor has a great free program, so you can utilize that for 2 to 3 weeks before you decide. But let's just go ahead, right? One thing that I want to go ahead and start from is just click on open a folder. Now, let's say I don't have a folder. I'm just going to create a new folder and select new. I'm just going to write it YT test, and that's it. Select folder. Now it will open this particular screen. If you see here, there's technically nothing. And I'm just going to zoom out a bit so that you can still see what's happening on the screen, but also understand that there's nothing. Literally, it's just blank, right? I can open a new text file. I can create this and all of these things. So this is what you see right now. Again, there is literally nothing. There's just a chat window here. You can close that chat window. You can bring it back and everything. But let's say we create a new text file, right? You have this option where you can press Ctrl K, where you can start generating code. And what everyone prefers is to right click on add symbol to new chart. Here you come to agent mode. In agent mode, you technically don't need to do anything. And I'm going to showcase that by building a very simple web application about India's salary calculations. I'm going to build something super simple called a net take-home salary calculator. For example, when you get a salary and if you're employed, you get a salary and you get tax deducted from it. And after that, you get a monthly enhanced salary. So we're going to do something super simple, right? What I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy paste these particular slabs. And this is all the income tax slabs that India has from a perspective. I'm going to take them and explain what I wanted to build. You're going to build an application to allow people to calculate their net take-home salary for India based on the following tax slabs. Right now, if you see here again, I just described what I wanted to build, but I have not given any instructions specifically on what it needs to do. So I can just go ahead and press enter and show you what happens and then explain why you should not do this, right? Now, first, I'll create the main HTML file. Thought for 4 seconds. I'm using a Gemini model. I can also switch this to another model. I'll show it to you in a second, but it has already started developing something, right? You can just click accept. You can wait for it for some time, but sometimes it just asks you to click accept. And you can see it has created a website, an HTML file, a CSS file, and also doing a couple of other calculations to make this complete. Probably going to use JavaScript for the mathematical stuff. So once all of this is done, we should have a very simple rudimentary application built within seconds using Cursor. So I just copy this path, come back to my browser, and I can put in my salary, and I want to see if it is 12 lakhs, which is in India like a tax-free salary. I don't think it will work accordingly, right? So if you see, the net total tax payable is 60,000 and net take home is 1140. But that's not true. In India right now, if you are earning 12 lakh rupees every year, you have to pay zero tax. The reason it did not work, and also one of the problems with AI is that I did not give it any. So I just told it, here are the tax slabs based on that calculation, which works. If I put in something like 20 lakh, you have the right tax, you take out 2 lakhs and this is your take home monthly and everything else. That's great. But what I want to do is give it more details. So I can go ahead and copy paste all of this and input there. If I come back here, I'm just going to say the application looks fine, but here are some more details which we need to consider. And I'm going to put all of this and start making agent, just letting Cursor do what it needs to do. It's going to think, it's going to automatically implement the code. This is where you already have an application which was built by Cursor, and now Cursor itself will edit the file, right? So as you can see, it's already generating. You can see this in the bottom, and I can just zoom in. So you can see this is generating. And only thing that I need to do is just click on accept and let it do it. Why does accept exist? Because this is not a tool for you to just blindly follow code. It's also about for you from a development perspective to see what's happening and accept or deny if you don't like something that's happening and you might want to change the code directly. And Again, that's very important given that Cursor is a tool made for developers, but also it's a super powerful tool. Even if you're not a developer, you can just use it. There's literally no reason you should not use this because it's pretty impossible. But also, one thing that you see right now, the income tax calculator looks pretty blank. Like you just like put in a number and you get net take home. Works flawlessly. Hopefully, I'll have to do all the calculations. But also, I want to make sure that what can we do with Cursor is not limited to building a single page application. I can do a lot more, and we're going to get to that in a second. Now, if you see, there are inputs being done, updates being done. So I'm just going to accept that and change it, copy, just save this and come back here and refresh. If I select this and put 12 lakhs, that's the number I want to check. So I don't know, like hopefully it's 12 lakhs. And yes, are you a salary individual? And technically your total tax payable is zero, which is perfect based on the India income tax. It also took in different inputs from what was available and has gone and selected 3 different regimes. So this is super cool. You were able to build a complete application, which is a simple web app. You can also deploy this, and we can probably cover that in another video on how to deploy applications easily. But you can use this pretty quickly and you can use this really well. Let's try to make it better. Let's try to make it a bit more nuanced. Here is where 2 of the cool tools that Cursor has used. You can select either auto select or choose your own model. I technically prefer auto select quite a bit for simple applications. Whenever I want to do something specific, I'll choose a model that I like. Claude 3.7 Sonnet is obviously amazing, but also Gemini 2.5 Pro is pretty cool. You can select auto select and technically just put on auto select and also attach web. Another cool stuff that I want to show you here is specifically about design, like, specifically about context. You see this beautiful thing, add context, which is super important when you're trying to do stuff across code bases, but also for building new features. And let me explain you how. So I want much more better design principles, right? I don't like this application to just look like this stupid thing, right? It's pretty bland. It's super basic. It's a good, horribly good MVP probably. Best design principles guide for fintech. And I'm just going to ask you to get me some stuff about design principles on good fintech applications. For an understand, fintech is financial technology applications. So anything that you use, your bank apps or any other apps that you use in your country are there. So you can see there are some really good UI UX things and also a lot of other stuff. So what I'm going to do is specifically focus on UI and UX, give 15 pointers, right? Now it's going to obviously take a couple of seconds. And once it is done, I'll show you what happens. You can see it has come up with 15 design principles. Technically, you would think that I should just go to Cursor and paste them here, right? That would be not a great job. What I would love to do is come back here and you can see here are 4 options. This is new file, new folder, refresh, XYZ. I'm just going to click on new file and say design principles.md, right? That's a markdown file. And I'm just going to come back here and paste all the principles that Perplexity has given us. And the next thing I'm going to do is come back here, select add context. I'm going to come back here, click on file and folders and search design principles. And because I have said this, go ahead and use the best design principles from fintech applications and bring their UI UX ideas into our current application. It will now read that file and incorporate those changes. I've given it much more context, but also because that context is going to live in a file, right? I can ask it to reread it multiple times. In a chat, what happens most of the times is if you just give it in one shot, it will not remember or it will not be able to use that content and you'll have to keep copying and pasting it, which is not an efficient way of doing that. Whenever you want to add more information about things that you want to reuse within your application, always create a new file. That could also mean, for example, let's say I want to integrate Perplexity API, right? So let's say Perplexity API docs, right? And if I go here, these are all the documentation that I have for Perplexity. It will take a second to load. You can see here, and I have API reference. We will try to utilize Perplexity or some other OpenAI call, and I'll show you how you can use their particular documents about development and also make Cursor refer them and build better applications. Right? Let's just see how this comes out. We're just going to click accept. And as you can see, I've literally not even seen the code once, right? This is a super simple example, but also to understand that, this is how easy it is to build with Cursor. You can just click accept, and because it's a simple application, even when it gets complex, if you know what you're explaining and if you're doing the right security principles, it's super easy to build. I'm just going to fast forward this. Okay, let's see, it's done. Let's try to refresh this and how it looks. Hopefully it looks better. First of all, it looks a lot better, but I don't think this is exactly what I was wanted because I did not define it, right? Let's say I put in a salary. Let's try again, a higher salary than 12 lakhs. So let's say put 14 lakhs and we put that and select new regime. This is how it comes, right? Total tax payable, net take home salary monthly, comes out pretty good, right? Like even adding this information is probably from that transparency perspective. But let's say we want to go a bit further, right? Now we want to take control in our hands. So let's come back to our application. And one thing I just want to check from a calculation perspective, yeah, looks technically right. So we're going to come back here and say now a couple of things from our end and also define what we want. First of all, I'm going to change the color scheme. I want the color scheme to be green and the calculator to use modern UI components. So now what I'm going to do here is very specifically, I want the color scheme to look specifically from green perspective. And then technically, here is some components that you should use. So there is chart scene UI, a component library where you can use multiple things like different components. So you can use the dashboard. All of these are already created, so the code exists. And cursor should be able to refer them very easily and utilize that. And also focus on adding easy animations and charts for easy navigation for user, right? I'm going to define all of this, and then in addition to that, keep the content within the width of the page. Okay, perfect. So I've added this, and then let's see what it comes up with. Another thing I can do in the meantime is go ahead to Behance and do some finding of great designs and technically give that cursor also as inspiration. So let's bring that here, right? But in the meantime, I just want to find great tax calculator UI Behance, right? Perfect. Let's see something super cool or something like that. And it's still developing, so again, I can see and where we end up with. So I'm going to do say financial planner here and search for this. And why you should do this is you can really look at some super cool designs. I really love this design, budget planning app. I love the inspiration of this design. So I'm going to take a quick screenshot, and kudos to Artem, who's probably a great designer. I took a screenshot, pasted it, and you can see it comes as an image, right? And then I can come back here and say, very simply, get inspired from the design and the image and try to bring in some of its elements. Right. So one thing is you can stop generating the code wherever it is. You can click on stop and go from there. But right now we're just going to conclude this by adding an image, because that's like 3 core features of what cursor comes out to be. Let's see what it did already, so we can see the changes actually happening in real time. If I refresh this, the color looks much better, right? Calculate tax. Yeah, it's 1,60,000 instead of 16 lakhs. This is much better, right? You have the income distribution, but the charts are okay. The chart is never ending, right? We need to have better chart creation and also see why this is good. The income distribution chart is there. It's a great start, but also that cursor will make mistakes. And try to bring some elements. In addition, fix the charts. They are too big. And that's it. Like again, I'm just going to define it as normally anyone would, right? So this is the tax breakdown. This looks much better compared to what it was before. And now cursor will probably be analyzing the image, understanding what design principles it can take from there, and then finally go ahead and do it. You can see here, I'm choosing auto, but if you want to look at different models, you can choose something that you like. O3 is great, right? Also something super cool for programming. But if you're building something super simple like this, don't use any higher model. It does not add anything else except maybe a small tweak. And also you get like a mixed creativity across models. I choose to do that. For every complex task, hopefully this gets completed and we have a great salary calculator. There are so many companies who have salary calculators, but you have to input a lot. Why not have it super simple? Put in the salary, what you're able to earn, and then technically just have that division. And you can do this for any country using cursor and like develop whole tool. So yeah. Okay. So one thing that I can see is the design is not working properly. Let me just show that to you. See, if the design is not working, it's pretty decent, but it's not, again, you can see like it's good components and everything, but on the left-hand side, the whole thing has got skewed. I don't know why. The standard deduction has gone away. So I've just taken a quick screenshot, going to paste it here, and then come back here and say, very simply, the design is not aligned, XYZ. This is the exact reason where you should not choose an auto model and go to experimental and O3 or something, and choose from there. When you start debugging, start using better models, because that will help us a lot. Okay, perfect. Let's try it again. It did some changes and should be able to work. If you put this, taxable income, perfect. A bit wonky on the left-hand side again, but we'll leave it here. Else 1,60,000, that's technically comes out to be 13,300. The only thing is standard deduction is not being applied. I just want to say only if the salary checkbox is checked, otherwise the deduction is zero. Okay, so if it is salaried individual, then only standard deduction apply, which makes sense. This is pretty good. You have the chart, net salary, taxable income, standard deduction, and then gross salary, what you should get. So you'll be getting equivalent to everything technically. Perfect. This looks pretty good. Now let's do something which Cursor is used a lot for, which you have heard a lot about, is actually editing and working with code, right? So here is one of my projects that is already running in Cursor. It's a very simple personal website that I've been trying to develop and redesign. So this is built in React. I started this with Lovable and then it is here. I have been using it a lot. I actually don't even know how to start a server. Now, if you don't know a lot about React, I'm just going to explain it in simple terms. It's an amazing framework for developing end applications. Using it for a landing page based website is obviously overkill, but I just wanted to experiment. I don't know a lot about React. I've had some play around with it quite some time. I don't even know how to start this project. So I'm going to ask Cursor to show a new feature, which it can do is also give you commands for terminal. And I'm just going to say run the project, right? And once I say that, hopefully it will give me a command line terminal, which will automatically be able to run the whole project. It will check all the files and then finally give me a command to run the project. I know that command, but I just want to show you that it makes it super easy for anyone without any technical background to do this. So it's going ahead, reading all the files. If you ever want to get any project from GitHub, the only thing you need to do is come here and select on this amazing command, right? And you can bring this project to your own file and folder structure. So let's say you want to bring this project from GitHub to your desktop to actually edit with Cursor. What you can do is come here and open a file explorer. I'm just going to open my file explorer, and this is my file where I have all my folders and XYZ. So what I can do here is very simply click on new folder. I just want to have that for my own sake is test. Then I'm going to open CMD, copy and paste this. So you see I'm copying this and come here, press CD and paste what you've copied. So now your terminal is in that particular place. Clear this, come back here and put the link that we copied from GitHub here. I'm just going to come here and install git clone and put in the URL of that and then technically clone that whole GitHub repository here. Right, so my whole GitHub repository gets cloned. And then the only thing I need to do is go to file, open folder, go to my folder that we just created. So we created a folder called test and you can select this folder that opens up. Now, if you've never used Git, you also have to download it and you can go to git.com or like git-scm.com, just search Git and download it for Windows. It is super easy to install. Let's come back to our application. You can see it gave me a command and I can just input that command. Again, it's npm run dev and enter this. Now it will be able to run the project itself. If I click here, I will see my website, which is still under development. So it takes a couple of seconds to load up. That depends from your own PC, but here is how it looks. I have different tools. I'm building all the stuff that I do here. And then again, again, this is massively under the way. But that's exactly why I want to show it to you. Let's say I want to edit anything here. Right now, this is a project that you got from GitHub. Let's say you want to clone this particular website itself. I'll make that public in case someone wants to replicate that or just build their own. Let's say I want to change this. I want to change the way the cards are looking. So what I can do is come back here, right? Done. It's already done. Now I come back here and click on new chart. I'll start with a new chart because I don't want to utilize the old one. There is a lot of files, folders, images, and everything else. All I'm going to do is come to my section. You can see there's a menu, there's a navigation, there's a book card or something like that. So let's say I want to change, these are my connect cards, right? Let's say I want to update them. They obviously look super bad. They don't look super cool, at least. What I can do is click on this and click on add symbol to new chart, right? When it says add symbol to new chart, you come back here. I'm going to select O3 this time and say, make the cards a bit more animated and put the images in the background with an overlay, and the text should be above the overlay in a beautiful format. Now, why I have done that specifically by adding this symbol is because I want just this part to be edited. First of all, it needs usage-based pricing. I'm just going to technically go to this and select experimental. This was something new. I have never seen O3 Prali. I was on Prali, they had some trial and I had used out of all the credits. So I'm just going to switch to experimental model. That's one thing that you need to know about Cursor. They charge you for additional models if you're using higher end models, which they have to pay a lot for. Okay, perfect. It's already updating this. But the one thing to understand is this was something that was already built, right? This was built in Lovable and then I've exported this whole project here to GitHub and then I'm using it in Cursor. And that's the beauty of it. With Cursor, you can do a lot more complex changes that are not possible in Level. And you can see this already looks super cool, right? So watch me on YouTube, join my community. I love this, right? And I technically would like to automatically, update these images and everything else. Now, let's say I have a question. I don't even know where to edit these images, right? So what I'm going to do, command, you can either use the agent or these three different modes that are existing, right? Technically, you are not supposed to use manual a lot. If you are a developer, you will use it. But let's say you are not a developer, and that's what we are looking at. You'll use ask. Where can I update the images for the cards? Once I ask that, it will answer it as a question. Rather than doing it itself, it will answer that question. So it will tell me, for example, community image is on line 13. You can see here, it has highlighted these particular ones, and you have the image here. It has taken images from Unsplash. And I can put some images in a folder and ask it to utilize that. You can see it has specifically said which line has what. So you have line 1, line 31, and you can see it has highlighted those particular code sets where you can update the image. You can ask it to update the images also once you add them. So this is pretty cool given that you are able to just ask it questions, which is super important. Another thing that you can do with this, and which I really love, if you're starting with a new project, can you explain the project in depth, right? Once I start doing that, it will go ahead and understand, okay, goal, explain the current project structure, strategy, what it is. It will understand the project itself based on the whole model, the Gemini experimental model. And then now it will explain me the project structure and how it is created, right? So it will also give me a very good idea. So let's say you have to understand a project, you're seeing where the error is coming from and something like that. So you can see, understand where the problem is and XYZ, and then just understand the project. It's a simple one. It gives you the framework, it gives you language, styling, etc. But this is great to get started instead of reading through tons of documentation. A lot of times not very updated, not very good, and everything else, unless you're working with some super cool project which has amazing documentation. Now, one thing won't be right if I complete this tutorial without showing you the problems. So let me show you that also, right? Again, and hopefully they have just updated this, so might have got better. So the only thing now I'm going to ask is, and I'm going to move to auto select. So there is no specific model selection as such, and it automatically does this. I wanted to create a very simple thing. Create a simple chat option where the user can talk to an AI chatbot with a prompt about a quick summary about me using OpenAI API. Create a plan to implement this before writing. I'll give it the API key, obviously, right? But I just wanted to start using something to see how it actually works, right? When you are trying to implement a feature like this and it starts having problems, I'm just going to say implement, right? And then it will go ahead and start implementing. It created a plan, which is really good. Once you are getting started with something, always go ahead and ask it to implement stuff. And then again, this is just like to build a feature. I'm not going to have that on the website. No point to have a chat agent. But it automatically created a file, accepted that. Now it's going to create an OpenAI route and everything else. But now I want to show you one specific thing here, right? Again, I don't want to accept this, but I am also going to show you. And I want to see. You see this model, GPT 3.5 Turbo. Now imagine this is a super old model that AI is using, and that Cursor is auto-selecting a lot of models. Because it is auto-selecting a lot of these models, this is the exact error I wanted to show you. Like you see, this model will not work, right? I've tried it because OpenAI either discontinued or also does not allow it to be used anymore. You have 4 mini and everything else. But this is one issue that you need to understand. So what you always have to do is go to the OpenAI platform. These are the docs, so the API references and everything. Make sure that we technically input that in the same way we did before. So if I reference and showcase that to you, I can search for models. I can search which models exist, and it can show you different models available, right? Or you can just go to docs, which is like a bit more detail, and you have models here, and you can copy and paste all the models that exist and give the names. Again, it has the names, it has everything else here in detail, and you can just like click on any model and get the details and copy and paste that. One thing that I really hope everyone starts coming up with is the copy and paste to cursor option. But right now, all you can do is take a quick start and just copy and paste this whole thing, right? And just going to do Control A and create a new file, right? Control V, Control S, and we're just going to save this as OpenAI model instructions. And now, again, what I'm going to say is, okay, first let's see if I can run this. Let's just open. Whenever you need to open a terminal, one thing probably I miss is click on this, click on command prompt. I use command prompt a lot. You might use something else. It will install OpenAI as a library. No need to go in depth, but just to understand how much time it takes to again, just to build stuff and also utilizing figuring out these small chunks in the armor of cursor. You don't want to be always again, I've been trying for so long and I don't know what is happening, and this is the problem, right? The problem is that you just need to be a bit more careful. You need to be able to read code, and that's why that option of asking why is really good and also very crucial. So when you're debugging stuff, you can use that. Let's give it a couple of seconds. So you see, again, there is another issue coming up here. You can see that here. I asked it to create the .env file itself, and it is not able to do that. And we have to go ahead and create it ourselves, right? So go to the root file, which is technically this whole thing. And then I'm just going to create, and I just want to see if there is already something created. It's not. I'm just going to create env.local, and this is going to be the environments file. And I'm going to add this particular. Does this work? This also does not work. So it's going to add this here, and I'll add my OpenAI API key here. And that's just because I don't want my OpenAI keys to be public, right? So I'll come here and then come back here and say very simply .env.local should not be added. That means that if any file which is part of Git ignore will simply not be part of the upload when we go to it in GitHub. So this is the file. We have the file here. I'm going to paste my key here. So you'll just be able to paste your key here. And technically, let's just put anything that you specifically have as a key. OpenAI key starts with SK hyphen and go from there. Perfect. If that is there, then technically I should be able to utilize this, right? Show a floating window on the front page, right? I just want that, and it should be able to add that particular file, check out everything, and add a simple chart bubble, which should work. I've not still updated the model. You can see it's still GPT 3.5 turbo, so I'm going to make this to accept this. So GPT 4.0 mini. Perfect. Let's see, do we have a chat bubble? Perfect. Let's see what the error is. Good to see errors, and you can debug that. Whenever you have to debug, press Ctrl+Shift+I, and you will be able to find an error. This is interesting. There is something that's okay. If I put really good chat interface, fail to get response at handle submit. So you can see what you need to do is copy and paste this and go back here and say, here is the error I am facing. And this will now again go ahead and fix that. API endpoint isn't found. You need to probably set up the route and everything else. And the best thing is, again, you can just keep going on and on in iterations and it will start working. This is a pretty comprehensive way on how I use Cursor on a daily basis. Now, one more thing you should know is that there are a lot more options is in Cursor settings. So if you click on this gear icon at the top, you'll get settings. And you can see a lot of stuff. You can have privacy mode and everything else. Then there are features. You can enable show white spaces, auto import. You can select if you want the chart to be, instead of agent mode, you want it to be always in a question mode, and you want to have that questions. You can select which models. You can see there are a ton of models I have access to. You have the Grok 3 and everything else. I selected these by default, and you can obviously choose which models you like. The only thing you need to do is click on this and you will start seeing them as an option. If I open a new chart, I'll have more models available. Then rules. This is something that you should utilize when you are building or utilizing bigger projects, or you have specific code styles to follow. You can input those rules here. For example, I can say always write code in camel case. Right now, again, that's just a way of writing code on the first alphabet is higher and then lower, and then again alphabet. So every word, first alphabet is higher. And that could be a simple rule. Every time I have a rule, it gets added here automatically. And then there could be project-specific rules that you want, and they can automatically be part of the code base. Now, again, that goes a bit more into a bit more development directory and everything else. When add a MCP server, completely separate video need for this, and you have other cool stuff. So if you want to be in early access, you can switch that and you can go there. But yeah, that's pretty much it from my perspective on building stuff with Cursor. It's super cool. It works really cool. And then again, if I just say hi, hopefully again an error, I'll have to figure that out.
So while quickly recording, I want to fix the chat. I really did that. I fixed it, but again, very simply, I want to record. So very simply, if you can see here, there are multiple options where I have utilized it. It took me like 5 to 6 messages, but the easiest for was to find something that was implemented or go to the developer itself, put both of these into context, and from there I just debugged it for a couple of minutes. And now finally, please go back to the chat. Can you tell me something new? I don't have anything specifically configured, but it still works, and you can have all these options available in the chat itself. And you can build that through Cursor. The only thing is it takes a couple of time, so just take your time and build it. And from there, just keep debugging and you'll be able to get through it. Again, I'll let you move forward with the video.
That's when you see, that's also a problem with Cursor, that it takes time to debug stuff. Maybe the file is not properly configured or something like that, and go from there. I hope you are building this cool stuff like, an income tax calculator or something. Whatever you want to build, you can build with Cursor, and you can just go from there. And that would be Super cool. Just to give one trivia, if you don't know, Cursor is actually nothing but like a kind of like not nothing like, again, they have a whole company and everything else, but they're also built on top of Visual Studio Code. So this is how Visual Studio Code looks. You can see it's super similar. They also have their own agent, GitHub Copilot. This is made by Microsoft. It's completely available for free, so anyone can download it. That's how Cursor is. Looks super similar because they're using VS Code as their base and then building on top of this. This is not a secret or something. It's just that's something that if you don't know, you can now know. So it's kind of like an extension of Visual Studio Code and really have got better with their own thing. So if you want to download VS Code, you can do that. And we'll be doing complete demo of VS Code with agent mode also, because VS Code is technically free for anyone to use with agent and you don't have to pay anything. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please hit the like, share, and subscribe button. It really helps me out a lot. There's a lot more coming and you will be notified about all the cool videos that I'm going to post with a ton of new stuff, and you are able to build your own applications, agents, whatever you want very quickly. I'll see you in the next one.